Today's podcast is all about, well, a relationship. Your relationship, my relationship to something in particular, or particular. And it could be about anything, but it isn't. So if that's confusing enough for you, have a listen. Welcome to my mind. No, have a good listen. I'm sure you'll find something really interesting here.
Warning.
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 Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Here's the thing, guys. Have you got enough of it? Maybe you've got too much. Maybe there's not enough. Maybe it just slips through your fingers. You get it and you just let it go. Or you're struggling with it. What the hell are you talking about, Cluffy? Well, I'm talking about a relationship. But a particular relationship. A relationship about money. Because we all have different relationships with money. And I've got some really interesting ways to explore this. So even if you don't even think you've got an issue with money, because you don't need to, this is a brilliant thing to get more learnings. Because one of my meta things about this particular podcast is that you can always learn more, and there's different ways to learn more, and then you can adapt the processes I'm going to be talking about to other things. So why are we talking about money? Well, here's something that we had a window cleaner back in the days when I was in another house. And I used to see this guy doing the window cleaning. He used to come along and he was happy as Larry. His name wasn't Larry, but he was happy as Larry. And I used to say to him, how you doing? Do you make a lot of money? You always seem happy. What? He goes, well, no, don't worry about money, Paul. I said, okay, so what's that about? He said, well, I have this little belief. I have this thing. He said, if I got a pound, or you could say $1, but he said a pound more than I need, I'm a happy man. And if you think about that, I used to start thinking about that thing. That's pretty good, isn't it? As long as you got £1 more, $1 more than you need, that's an awesome belief to have. And you see, then you put in, what value do we put on money? Or value in a different way, like getting paid. Because I know some people have trouble putting a correct value on their services. So if you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, a therapist, someone who just does anything with their own skills and charges for it, some people have an awful dilemma sometimes of charging the right amount. And it's generally they charge too low. And this is what happened to me years ago when we as in Joseph, my younger son, and I began our therapy clinic in Cambridge. I was working and I was doing this work, and I'd got a full-time job anyway. And this was like the thing I loved doing, but I was doing it on the side. And because I was in a reasonably well-paid job, this was just a little bit of pocket money for me. And I was happy, and I went all moralistic in a way that I said, well, if someone's going to work with me for an hour, I will only charge them what they get paid for an hour. That seems really good, doesn't it? The thing is, everyone I seemed to attract was on a very low hourly rate. Now, that didn't bother me because I was getting the results and I felt good about that. And then Joseph said, well, I'm now going to, that's all that GNU comes in, I'm going to start being a full-time therapist, Dad. We're together now. This is Cambridge Hypnotherapy. We are now professional hypnotherapists. So I can't afford to do this type of work the way you get paid. And obviously we can't have one therapist doing it one way and another therapist doing it a different way for value. And he said, this thing called hypnosis and therapy, that I said, I just enjoy it. I enjoy it. So I would do it for nothing. He said, yeah, well, that doesn't actually pay my bills. So I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, well, increase your rates by a lot. Wow. That's I find that really difficult. So he said, well, come on, let's explore this a bit deeper. And it's quite strange when I've got like an 18-year-old son giving me questions and questioning my values and having me explain my values back to him. And that was difficult. And the reason it was difficult it wasn't difficult because he was my son. It was difficult because he was asking some really difficult questions. And he said, well, let's put it another way. You've just worked with a lady with depression. She's been depressed for 15 years. She was on her last set of pills, as in there was no other range of pills that she could have. She'd used every different type of pill, been prescribed it, and she hadn't changed. And he said, Dad, in 3 sessions, it disappeared. He said, also, remember that guy who came along, whose life was, in turmoil, crying on the phone to you, and you saw him, and in 1 session, his whole life changed around. Instead of falling down crying, he was just a different man. And think of the ripples of change in his family, because he had a wife and some children. He also had, obviously, he had a sister I worked with after that, who had a terrible time but came along, again, 1 session. He said, what do you think they would value that change as? I had to think about it. I said, well, it's the type of thing, although if you think about it, it's priceless. You can't really put a value on it, can you? So he said, well, in that case, whatever charge we make will never be enough to cover the real value of what we do. So as long as we charge a reasonable price, as in any other business, and for the people who can't afford it, we'll give a concession. But let's charge a rate that's fair. And I thought about that, and I did think, well, the value is priceless. And it changed me because the money wasn't, it never existed. So I suddenly changed my mind in the money. We will charge what we need to charge. But the money never came into it when I was working with the person, because the person was still the person in front of me. And the intention to help them create the change in themselves, because they obviously do the work. A lot of people forget that, by the way. You have to do the work yourself. And that's where you get that empowerment, that self-esteem. But anyway, it just happened. So I've got to think about this. I'd like you to consider. Just consider, what do you do? What do you do that's really easy? And normally with the jobs that we do, if we're good at them, it's because we just become, we've done our time, as it were. We've put in our time. We've done the learning. We've done the practice. And that seems to make things just naturally easy. You see someone who can do something so well, and you go, how do you do that? Go, I don't know, it's easy, isn't it? Well, not for me, it isn't. It is for you. So just because it's easy doesn't mean that it's easy for other people, and it also doesn't mean that because it's easy for you, the value is diminished. In fact, if you can share things, your service is priceless. So maybe time to think about, what is the right price for you? What is the right value of your service? And what I did for myself a little bit, even that I thought, well, maybe, okay, we've got up this level and we actually increased our rates quite considerably over the next couple of years. So, well, I'm just going to give it a bit more service then. I'll just keep going. This constant never improvement of service and value. So I'd like you to consider that. But if you have got an issue with the valuing of your services or money, maybe the next set of exercises I'm going to talk through is going to be right up your street. Right up your street. You see, what is the value of money? when I say what's the value of money to you, some people just say, well, it's just an exchange of energy, which it is. I exude this energy with you, and you exchange it for money, which is great. But more importantly, if we have an issue with money, and an issue can be not just not having enough, but letting it go too quickly, not looking after it, not saving, all those wonderful, sensible things that we should do. Should do? Yeah, sensible things. Well, what does having money mean to you? Now, that's a question we could ask ourselves. Get our Jenny journal out and just say, what does having money mean to me? And it's quite strange because you think, first of all, I'll be able to do, have things. A lot of people go to the means. It just means this. I'm going to get this. A means to an end. But sometimes it means so much more. Because it's sometimes for some people it means if I earn a reasonable sum of money, it means I can have more time to invest in my family. Invest time, not money, time. I have more time available. And it's quite strange because you don't necessarily equate money equals time. Sometimes we think of, well, if I need to earn a lot of money, I've got to spend a lot of time earning it, which means I've got less time for the family, which you will see a number of, you'll see these people who work so hard for their family, only to realize that they're not spending any time with their family because they're doing everything for the family. And that's like that twist and clash and conflict in values. So maybe think with your Jenny journal, not just your career, but just pick different contexts in your life. In your relationships, your one-to-one relationship, your family, social, your hobbies, your interests, maybe the spiritual side of yourself. What does money mean to you in each one of those contexts? And just explore it for the moment. There's no right, there's no wrong. Without judgment, as it were. Take a meta view. So just let yourself write in our trusted Jenny journal, or journals if you have more than one. And just look in each context and just make some notes. And don't think about it too hard. Just let those thoughts come without, getting all intellectual. They don't have to make sense. Just let them come. And then notice maybe in different areas of your life, money means different things. And you can see maybe there's a conflict going on. Because to do one means maybe you're excluding another. And that, just the understanding and acknowledging of that, you can do something about it. Because now you've got a baseline and something to measure from. And you can see how you can change things. You can then explore what different alternative opportunities you can get. But also just notice maybe what's a belief you have about money in those different contexts. Because I think you might be surprised to find that belief you have about the value of money to you in a career is different to that in a family or a relationship. And it's just interesting. These are just like explorations of what's inside us. We're not trying to fix anything. We're not trying to mend anything. Well, not yet. First of all, we want to find out, is there anything to fix? Is there anything I can make better? Now, when I say is there anything to make better? Well, the answer to that is always going to be yes. Because you could have a absolute perfect relationship with money in every context of your life. Could it be better? That could be 1% better, couldn't it? Wonderful plus 1% is wonderful. And you can keep going. So whatever you think your relationship is with this, just play with it. And that's just going to make it better. So, and sometimes we have these beliefs that suddenly spring into our mind. There's these things, money doesn't grow on trees. Well, it's paper. what does that mean? There's a scarcity factor, isn't it? Save and never spend because, or money is the root of all evil. Where did that come from? Someone's experience there has created that belief. And would anybody with that little belief below the surface ever have an abundance of money? And maybe, this thing about abundance. You see, going back way, way, way back in time, there was a time when there was no money. None at all. Didn't exist. There is a barter. So I thought that's like a form of money, isn't it? 1 apple equals 2 oranges or whatever. But even before that, there was no money. Today, how much money is sloshing around this little old planet? It's unbelievable, isn't it? Trillions and billions of money sloshing around. You hear these people, the wealthiest man in the world is worth something like 200 billion. How many noughts is that? Apart from a bloody lot. So, this thing about abundance, it's there. There's enough for everybody. We just got to do and exchange our energy. And exchange our energy with the right intention and beliefs. Being aligned. So, how can we do that? Oh, and also about these beliefs, just before where did you get them from? Oh, we'll come back to that in a minute. That's just a little teaser. Because I've got a couple of things I'd like you to explore. And the first one is, let's really do a values exercise. And again, instead of just writing these down, if you've written them down, okay, not this now because you've only just listened to me, but if after this podcast you got your Jenny journal out and went through those contexts, different contexts, and thought about what's having money or not having money mean to me, what's the value of money, proper value, not the pounds, shillings and pence and dollars and cents and things like that. But this time, I want you, with a piece of paper, again, Jenny Journal, actually either pick a context or just do the overall context to start off with and ask, why is money important to me? Or what's important? That's a better one. Let's go back. What's important about money to me? And you'll come up with an answer. And again, let's not get intellectual, and think about it so you write the most perfect answer that if anybody read it, they'd go, oh, what a wonderful person you are. But instantaneously, let that unconscious answer come up. So, what's important to me about money? Boom! And then you go, okay, here's an answer. What's important about that to me? Boom! I'm not sure how a click and a boom come together, but boom! You come to a second, one more removed from the first. And then you'll say, okay, that's second removed. What's important to me about that? And you'll come up with another answer. And we've talked about this before. You see, what I'm looking for, and I want you to look for, is what we call towards and away froms. Now, what the hell is that, Paul? Well, if you don't remember and you haven't listened, it doesn't matter because I'll explain. I learned it in NLP. Whether it's elsewhere, I don't know. But we talk about towards and away from. Now, towards is something that you're going toward. Makes sense, doesn't it? So, I could be going toward abundance. So I can have joy. So I can just be so settled and centered. Everything is towards. But an away from could be from, so I know I'm no longer in debt. Money is important to me because I'm no longer in debt. That seems really positive, isn't it? But it's not going towards, it's going away from debt. And sometimes you might find that the first one that you do will be the first question you ask, what's important to me about money? You come with an answer and you go, well, that's a towards, isn't it? Because I will feel really great, because I'll feel content, I'll be valued, maybe something like that. I'm making these up. And then you say, what's important to me? And then you might get one, because I'll no longer be in a struggle. Oh, that's an away from. And what we do is you can write different contexts and do another reason. Maybe I like to write 2 or 3 different reasons or different values on each thing. So I might say, okay, what else is important to me about money? And you'll come up with another answer. And you say, what's important about that to me? Another answer. What's important about that? So you get a third time removed on that part. And then you say, okay, so what else is important to me about money? Oh, it means this. And you do at least 2 or 3 lines of that. And then explore them. Explore them to look for towards and away from. Now, if they're all towards, absolutely superb, but I don't believe you. Because I know you probably will get most of them toward. But generally, somewhere below the surface, there's the odd away from, because, we're human. We have this reptilian brain inside that is there for fight and flight and going to save you from a saber-toothed tiger and the threat of everything. So, which is an away from. So look at those. And when you look at those away froms, they're not bad. But if we change them to a toward, they'd be a lot better. So you might want to think, okay, I've got this away from here. What's the belief that I have about that? And as I think about that, what belief comes to mind? Now, here's the thing. Sometimes a belief doesn't come to mind straight away. So what I would do in that case, and maybe I'd do this first, I don't know. There's no right way or wrong way. So you can do this either. So you can either look at the belief first, or you could say, as I look at that away from piece of writing that I've said, maybe coming away from the struggle or debt and things like that, what emotion do I feel as I think about that? And as you notice the emotion, you might want to put a label on it, if you can. I think labels sometimes are something that are too general, but if you want to, you may want to put, it may be this. But then, as you go into that feeling, that emotion in your body, so notice where it is in your body. Oh, it's in the upper left side of my chest. So just put your awareness there. And as you put your awareness into that feeling, just ask, what belief do I have about this? And bam, there'll be something there. And it may look like a total positive belief, but again, because it's an away from, it's going to have some type of negativity in there. I know when you decided to have this belief, however long ago, you did it with the most wonderful positive intention your unconscious mind could have. With the wisdom it had back in those days, the experiences it had in those days, that was the most positive belief you could have to keep you safe. But now we're exploring it to be even safer, because when we have these positive beliefs, when we feel good, we will be even safer because we'll have learned. We didn't have the learnings back then, but we'll have the learnings back right now. So, what are we going to do? We go to that feeling. Get that feeling, maybe label it, and then explore the belief. And as we explore that belief, we can go, well, okay, if that's the belief I have now, what examples can I find that are the opposite? Counterexamples, as it were. So what examples in my life can I find that make this belief not 100%? Because at the moment I believe it's 100%. But if I can find a counterexample, even if it's only one, that belief cannot be 100% true. You'll probably find quite a few counterexamples in your own life. If you struggle with that, and if you found those counterexamples, you can also find counterexamples in the world outside. You know, look at other people. They're probably just doing it. So they must have a different belief to you because they're doing things differently. And I wonder if you could find out, or just imagine what belief they would have to support the way they behave and act. This will, well, it's called, in NLP terms, loosening your model of the world, because you have this model, but it's a model, and as you loosen your model of the world, you suddenly become open to different thoughts, and therefore your model of the world changes. It evolves because you allow new learnings to come in, and that's what we said, new learnings. That's how we evolve. That's how we get this unplugged personal development from simple ways. And these are really simple. I've given you a really easy way. Go into the feeling. Ask, what belief do I have about myself that makes this feeling so? Boom. Explore the counterexamples of that belief. But also you might want to think, well, where the hell did this belief come from? Wonder where it came from. And probably you'll find out it's come from maybe a family member. Normally mums, dads, grandparents. And you think, crikey O'Reilly. I love that word, crikey O'Reilly, I'd think to myself. Now, is life, the world, the same now as it was way back then? Whoa, there was no mobiles, there were no telephones, there was no text messages, there's no Facebook, thank God there was no Facebook, or any other. So anyway, but the world was different. So those beliefs may have been very supportive back then, but now it is different. So the beliefs have to change. They have to evolve with the time. Every day you're a different person. Those beliefs have to be tested to make sure they're always positive and supportive. So where did they get yours from? And if you think about that, if you just came up with the answer, said, do you know what? Yeah, I can remember my gran saying that. My gran, she always used to say that. I think that's where I got it from. Well, just think, where did she get it from? And it was probably her grandmother. And now you're going, how far? That's 4 generations ago. What was the world like then? And I'm living my life from that type of belief. Now, what I'm not saying is every belief that you pick up from your grandparents and their grandparents has to be out of tune, because there's some wonderful morals, values of being in this life and serving and helping other people. But the ones that don't support you are not supporting you. And it's your duty to find the ones that support you so you can live this life the best way. So I'd love you to do all of that, because you're going to learn so much. Now, the thing about that is it's semi-intellectual, because you're writing, you're thinking, and you're doing stuff. There's a bit more of unconscious by going into the feelings and things like that, and getting your unconscious mind to start learning. And it will, and so will you. I'm sure, nearly a Cluffy guarantee, that this will create some aha moments to you. It will change your life for the better. Everything we do here will change your life for the better. That's the guarantee. However, there's another thing we could do. And this is, I think, quite magical. You see, in our NLP trainings, Joseph and I, we used to teach perceptual positions. Now, I've talked about this quite a few times. Remember, first position, looking through your own eyes. Second position, going into somebody else, as if you were somebody else looking through their eyes back at you. And then a third position, a meta view, high above, looking down, detached, dissociated, emotionally not there, no connection, so you can get another view, another set of learners. So you're getting different learners all the way through. But then what we decided to do, we would do an exercise, and it was generally relationships. So someone would talk about maybe their daughter, their son, and then work with that and going into them and understanding what they felt and getting some intuition out of it. But then we thought, well, there is a relationship to things like money. I wonder what would happen if we did a perceptual position exercise and understanding what money thinks of us and what money would say to us. What would it teach us? I thought, this is going to be really freakily good. So we actually did it. We got people to stand up, all in the room. In their first position, they would just look ahead of them, imagine money as they see it, that symbol of money. And with their internal voice, they would just say to money what they felt about money. And it's quite weird, the different symbols that came up, And then we'd get them actually to walk across the room, stand in that position, turn around, look back at where they used to be, and become money. Hear what money's just been told by themselves, and feel what money feels about them. And money would talk, relay learnings to that person. And they might go backwards and forwards a little while, have a conversation, as it were, in those different positions. And then we get them to stand aside and look at that them over there and that money over there in this meta view, and get some understanding, some learnings there that you could teach or share with money and yourself down there. And then come back through money and back to themselves. And the learnings people got were unbelievable. And they were believably unbelievable, if that makes sense. They were magical in a way, because it seemed to make so much sense that the learnings they got really reflected where they were today and how they could change. They got information of how they can change and be in a good relationship with money. So that's something I'd like you to do. Now you say, okay, Paul, you've just done that. How am I going to do that? I'm going to tell you how you can do that. I'm going to record a process, or the process, for you to explore your relationship with money, just like we did back in those NLP trainings. I'll record it. I'll put it up on paulcloughonline.com/podcast. It'll be there for you just after this podcast is published, released, or whatever we call it. And you can just play with it. And once you get it, you can use it for other things. You'll just substitute where in the recording I'll be saying money. You could put it with anything. So you could do it with your career. What is my career talking to me? You could do it in, anything. The only limit is your imagination. Now that's going to be awesome. So that's what I'm going to do for you. I do say just go for it. Have fun with it. That's the whole thing. Get your intention right. The intention is I just want to learn about my relationship with money, and then go for it. It'll be great fun. You'll learn so much, and I know it will. In my way, I believe that you will get so much more out of this. So what have we talked about today? Let's summarize very quickly. We had my old window cleaner. $1, £1 more than you ever needed. Now, what a wonderful way. What would happen if you took on that type of belief? Or if you wrote out a belief similar that would support you and be toward? What do you charge for your services? Remember that? What's the value of your service? So what's the value of the result of your service? Forget how easy it is for you to do it, because you're bloody good at it, because you've done the 10,000 hours thing. You've done your practice, you've done your training, you've done it, and you've put your intention in it. What's the value of the result of your service that you give? And are you getting that value back? And if you're not, I think you should. Consider that. How can you do that? And then explore what having means. We said having. What does money mean to me? And just explore it in different contexts and the beliefs around that. And then we said we're going to do a quick values exercise. What's important to me about money, and what's important about that, and what's important about that. 3 times we may do it 3 times, and look for the beliefs, look for the emotions. You'll learn so much. And then this wonderful little little play of perceptual positions. It'll be awesome. I do hope you enjoyed that. And if you have, what else would you like to explore? Just let me know. Let me know by email. Go through the website, paulclough.co.uk, and also personaldevelopmentunplugged.com, which is where I'm now uploading every new podcast. Hopefully get the back issues on there as well. But every new one, there's a contact page there. Just put down your thoughts for me. In fact, that'd probably be the best place to do it. But do that. And what else would you lead? What else would you like to just explore? Because that's what it's all about, exploring things. And I'll give you my personal take on it. I'll also, if I can find where in my life, my personal experiences to share with you, I'm happy to share them. Because this is all about, as we talked so many times before, in such a way that I hope it's not boring to you, but this wonderful integrated field of learning. That's how we share, that's how we grow. And I want to say we as the Unplugged community grows, and then we spread the ripples of change going so far and wide, creating a world we all want to live in. There you go. I've had a ball with this. Probably gone on a long time, but I hope it's been a good time. Have more fun than you can stand. And enjoy every heartbeat. And just hang on for a couple of seconds because there's a couple of things I want to say just before you go. Okay? So before you go, I would love you to share this. To share maybe this podcast, share what you've learned to other people. Because if you only got one thing out of this, I think you'll get a lot more than one thing. But if you just got one thing, please share it with all your friends. Everybody. Let's grow this little community of ours into creating a wonderful reality out there. If you do that, that's like the pay it forward. There's no fee for this podcast, but the pay it forward is like your fee. And that would be brilliant if you do. My heart would be warmed. I'd be heart warmed. So from the heart of my bottom, or the bottom of my heart. Thank you for that. I don't know where that came from. Also, if you would go to iTunes. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe in iTunes or Castbox. They're the two I really like, but there's loads of other platforms, Spotify and things like that. Subscribe, like. But if you would, on iTunes, just go to the reviews. Put a small review up if you would. Hopefully 5 stars. Because that, again, just helps spread the word. And that'll be awesome. And sort of lastly, all those hypnosis tracks, remember, go to paulcloughonline.com/podcast. Put your email address in, become a member, and I'll give you an email link. And I never share your emails to anybody, okay? Email addresses stay where they are, only for me, to you, to send you updates, okay? So, and have a look around on Paul Clough Online. There's I believe, some really good programs. And they will be changing. And they will be changing in price shortly. Just haven't got around to doing it yet, but they're going to have to go up because the introductory time is over. And I'm also redeveloping and I'm doing some more stuff with it, but have a look at those as well. Okay? There's a couple of good, real good hypnosis tracks in there. You have to buy those ones, but they're really different. Creating your own inner sanctuary is a brilliant one. Well, have a look. Just have a play around. Anyway, till next time, this is Paul Clough from Personal Development Unplugged. Because in a moment, you're going to be leaving my unplugged mind. See you soon. Bye-bye now.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.